The bank statement arrived on a Tuesday morning, white envelopes stark against the dark mahogany of our breakfast table. I watched my husband Derek spread butter on his toast, humming something cheerful and off-key, completely unaware that I'd been staring at that envelope for 3 full minutes, without opening it. The kitchen smelled like coffee and burned sugar. Derek always cremated his toast, and morning light cut through the window behind him, turning his sandy hair into a halo he absolutely didn't deserve. "You going to open that or just stare at it all day?" he asked, not looking up for his phone. I picked up the envelope with steady hands. The return address was from First National, the bank where I'd kept my personal savings account since before we married. The account my grandmother had started for me when I was 5, the one I'd been building for 15 years with every bonus, every freelance check, every birthday gift. The account Derek knew about but had never had access to because I'd kept it separate. Maintained it as mine alone, a small independence in our otherwise merged financial life. I opened it carefully, using the butter knife since Derek had the letter opener next to his coffee cup. The paper whispered as I unfolded it. My eyes went straight to the balance line, 0. Not low, not depleted, 0, as in completely, utterly empty. My hands didn't shake. That surprised me. I'd imagined this moment for 3 weeks now, ever since I'd noticed the first suspicious transfer and I'd thought I'd rage or cry or throw something. Instead, I just felt cold, calm, like ice spreading through my veins, freezing everything into perfect, crystalline clarity. "Everything okay?" Derek asked, still not really looking at me, his attention on whatever email or text had captured his interest. "Fine," I said. My voice sounded normal. Pleasant even. Just the usual statement. "Good, good." He stood, brushing crumbs from his tie. "I've got that meeting downtown this morning. Might run late. Don't wait up if I'm not back by dinner." "Of course not." He kissed the top of my head, quick, perfunctory, the kind of kiss you give out of habit rather than affection, and grabbed his briefcase. "Love you, Claire. Love you too." The front door closed. His car started in the driveway. I sat alone in our kitchen with the bank statement in one hand and my coffee growing cold in the other, thinking about how easy it was to lie when you'd been practicing for weeks. Because I'd known. Not about the exact timing, not about which day Derek would finally drain my entire savings account, but I'd known it was coming. I'd known since the day 3 weeks ago when I'd logged into my online banking, noticed a test transfer, just $50, moved and then moved back within hours. The kind of thing you might miss if you weren't paying attention. The kind of thing someone does when they're testing to see if you're watching, if you'll notice, if you'll say something. I'd said nothing. I'd watched. I'd documented. And I'd planned. If someone's going to rob you blind, at least have the courtesy to make sure they're not home when you return the favor. I pulled out my phone and opened the folder I'd labeled Home Improvement. Boring enough that Derek would never look at it. Practical enough that its existence wouldn't raise questions. Inside were documents I'd been gathering for 3 weeks. Bank statements showing Derek's pattern of transfers. Screenshots of text messages between him and someone named Alex discussing our future, and once the money's moved. Photos of Derek meeting a woman, not Alex, apparently that was the code name, at a restaurant I'd never been to, looking at her the way he used to. Look at me. And most importantly, the quitclaim deed I'd filed 4 days ago, transferring our house. The house I'd bought before we married, the house that was in my name alone, the house Derek had moved into and claimed as ours, into a trust I'd established. A trust with me as the sole beneficiary. A trust Derek knew nothing about. I'd done it all very carefully, very legally, with a real estate attorney named Patricia Hughes, who'd listened to my situation with the kind of professional neutrality that came from hearing terrible stories every single day. She'd explained the process, made sure I understood the implications, filed the paperwork. Exactly right, so there'd be no question about validity or timing. "You're sure about this?" Patricia had asked me. "Once this is filed and recorded, the house is no longer marital property. If your husband finds out before you're ready to make your move..." "He won't find out," I'd said. "Not until it's too late. And when he does find out, Then he'll learn that taking things that don't belong to you has consequences." Patricia had smiled then, just slightly. "You remind me of myself 20 years ago. I hope this works out better for you than my situation did. What happened to you? Stayed too long. Forgave too much. Let him convince me I was overreacting. Don't make my mistakes, Claire. I hadn't. I'd learned from everyone's mistakes. From my mother, who'd forgiven my father's affair and spent 20 years in a marriage that was really just polite cohabitation. From my college roommate, who'd ignored the signs and ended up divorced with 3 kids and no career because she'd sacrificed everything for a man who hadn't sacrificed anything for her. From every woman who'd ever told me I wish I'd left sooner or I wish I'd protected myself better, I'd learned and I'd planned. And now Derek's betrayal, the one he thought was secret and clever, was going to teach him exactly what happened when you underestimated your wife. I finished my coffee and opened my laptop, pulling up the folder where I'd been, documenting everything for the past 3 weeks. Not just the financial transfers, though those were damning enough, but also Derek's schedule, where he said he was versus where he actually was. His lies about late meetings that coincided with charges at expensive restaurants. His sudden interest in going to the gym, which apparently was code for meeting his girlfriend at her apartment. Her name was Vanessa. I'd figured that out within a week. She worked at Derek's company in the same department, a few levels below him. 26 to his 34 to my 32. Blonde where I was dark, petite where I was tall, giggly where I was serious. Everything I wasn't, which I supposed was the point. They'd been together for 4 months, according to the text messages I'd recovered from Derek's laptop. He'd been careless with his passwords, using the same one for everything. Our wedding, anniversary, as if that meant something to him while he was actively betraying our marriage. 4 months. In 4 months, Derek had fallen in love with someone else, planned to leave me, and decided to steal my savings to fund his exit. All while pretending nothing was wrong, kissing me goodnight, asking me how my day was, playing the role of faithful husband. He thought I didn't notice, that I was too trusting, too busy with my own career, too comfortable in our routine to see what was happening under my nose. He thought he was the smart one, the strategic one, the one who'd get away clean with his affair and my money and his conscience somehow intact. He was wrong about all of it. I pulled up the bank website and logged into my account, the empty one. I took screenshots showing the zero balance, the transfer history, the dates and times. Everything documented, everything preserved. Then I logged into Derek's account. Yes, I had his passwords, plural, because he'd given them to me years ago in a fit of we should be transparent with each other that he'd apparently forgotten applied to him too. His account showed the transfer. $93,000 moved from my savings to his checking account 2 days ago. He'd let it sit there for 48 hours, probably making sure I didn't notice, didn't raise an alarm. Then, yesterday, he'd transferred $70,000 to an account I didn't recognize. I did some digging. It was a brokerage account, opened 3 weeks ago, in both Derek's name and Vanessa's name. Joint account, for their shared future, funded by my grandmother's careful saving and my 15 years of hard work. I documented all of it, screenshots, printed statements, transaction details. Everything a divorce attorney would need to prove financial misconduct and misappropriation of marital assets. Everything a judge would want to see when determining how to divide what remained of our marriage. But I wasn't ready to file for divorce yet. Not quite yet. Because I had one more move to make, one more piece to put in place before I revealed what I knew and what I'd done. I opened my email and composed a message to my boss, Amanda. Amanda, I need to take a few days off for a personal matter. I have vacation time saved up and all my current projects are either complete or can wait until next week. Let me know if this is a problem. Claire. Her response came within 10 minutes. Take all the time you need. You've been working yourself ragged lately. Everything okay? Just some personal things to sort out. I'll be back Monday. I'd been working myself ragged. That was true, but not for the reasons Amanda thought. I'd been working late and taking extra projects because I'd been building my own financial cushion, creating my own safety net for when this moment arrived. I'd known for 3 weeks that Derek was going to drain my savings. I'd let him do it because I needed him to commit fully to his betrayal, to make it undeniable and unforgivable before I showed him what I'd been planning all along. Chess, not checkers. Strategy, not reaction. Derek thought he was playing me. He had no idea I'd been playing him since the moment I'd noticed that first test transfer. I spent the rest of Tuesday preparing. I called a locksmith and scheduled them to come Thursday morning after Derek left for work, before he'd have any reason to come home. I called a storage company and rented a unit on the other side of town. I called my attorney, not Patricia the real estate lawyer, but Angela Freeman, the divorce attorney I'd been consulting with for 2 weeks. He took the money, I told her when she answered. All of it, every penny. Transferred it to himself, then moved most of it to a joint account with his girlfriend. That's good for us. Well, not good. I'm sorry this is happening to you, but good for building our case. Financial misconduct, potential fraud, breach of fiduciary duty between spouses. When should I file? Whenever you're ready. But Claire, remember what we discussed. Once you file, everything becomes public. He'll know you know. The marriage will be over publicly and legally. Are you prepared for that? I've been prepared for 3 weeks. And the house? You filed the quitclaim deed 4 days ago. It's recorded. The house is in an irrevocable trust with me as sole beneficiary. Derek has no claim to it. He's going to be angry when he finds out. He's going to be homeless when he finds out. There's a difference. Angela laughed just slightly. You're one of the most prepared clients I've ever had. Most people come to me in crisis, emotional and reactive. You came to me with a plan. My grandmother used to say, hope for the best, plan for the worst, and never let anyone see what you're really thinking. She was right. Jesus raised you well. She did. And she saved that money for me. Derek stole from her too, in a way. That makes this personal. We talked through the timeline. I'd file for divorce on Friday. By then, I'd have moved Derek's belongings to the storage unit, everything that was clearly his, nothing that could be argued as marital property. I'd have changed the locks. I'd have served him with papers at his office, making sure Vanessa and all his colleagues knew what was happening. Public humiliation for public betrayal. Seemed fair. Thursday morning arrived cold and grey, November rain turning the world bleak and appropriate for the day's tasks. Derek left for work at 7:30 as always, complaining about the weather, kissing me. Goodbye like nothing was wrong. Like he hadn't stolen nearly $100,000 from his wife. Like he wasn't planning to leave me for a younger woman. Love you, he said at the door. Love you too, I replied, and I wondered if he could hear the lie in my voice the way I could hear it in his. The locksmith arrived at 8. By 9, every lock on every door had been changed. New keys, new deadbolts, new security. The house was mine, legally and physically. Derek couldn't get in even if he wanted to. At 10, the movers arrived. 2 guys I'd hired through a service that didn't ask questions. They helped me load Derek's clothes, his toiletries, his books and electronics and sports equipment. Everything that was undeniably his went into boxes, into the truck, into the storage unit across town. I packed efficiently, without sentimentality. These were just things. Objects. They didn't matter. What mattered was the message. You don't live here anymore. You never really did. This was always my house, and you were always just a guest who overstayed his welcome. By 3 p.m, the house was clear of Derek. His closet was empty. His bathroom drawers were bare. His desk in the spare room was stripped clean. Someone who didn't know better might not even realize a man had lived here. That was intentional. I spent Thursday evening cleaning, not because the house was dirty, but because I needed the ritual of it. Washing away traces of Derek, reclaiming space he'd occupied. It was therapeutic, turning our home back into my home with every swipe of a cleaning, cloth and every load of laundry. My phone rang around 6. Derek. Hey babe, running really late today. Don't wait up for dinner. No problem. I'll see you when you get home. Love you. Love you too. He'd be with Vanessa, I knew. Probably celebrating his successful theft, feeling clever and unstoppable. Probably planning their future together, discussing how they'd use my money to fund their dreams. Let him celebrate. Let him feel smart. He'd earned one last night of happiness before tomorrow brought reality crashing down. I went to bed early, sleeping soundly in a way I hadn't in 3 weeks. The stress of watching and waiting was over. The performance of pretending I didn't know was done. Tomorrow I'd file the papers, serve Derek at his office, and begin the process of legally, ending what had emotionally ended months ago. Tomorrow Derek would learn what it felt like to lose everything in a single moment. His home, his wife, his reputation, his security, all of it gone because he'd been too arrogant to think I'd notice, too confident to think I'd fight back. Tomorrow he'd discover that stealing from your wife wasn't just wrong, it was catastrophically stupid when your wife was smarter than you gave her credit for. I fell asleep thinking about my grandmother, wishing she could see this. She'd always told me, a smart woman doesn't get mad. She gets strategic. I'd been strategic. For 3 weeks I'd been calm and calculating and patient. Tomorrow Derek would finally see the result of that patience. And it was going to destroy his world exactly the way he'd tried to destroy mine. Friday morning, I woke at 6 and dressed carefully. Not my usual work clothes. Today required something more formal, more powerful. I chose a charcoal grey suit my grandmother had bought me when I got my first real job, telling me every woman needed armour for important battles. The fabric still fit perfectly, tailored and professional, making me look like exactly what I was, someone who meant business. Derek was already downstairs when I came down, coffee in hand, scrolling through his phone. He looked up when I entered. You look nice. Important meeting today. Something like that. I should be home normal time tonight. Thought we could maybe order in. Watch something? That sounds nice, I lied, knowing he'd never make it home. Knowing that by tonight, he wouldn't have keys that worked even if he tried. He left at 7:30. I waited until his car disappeared around the corner, then waited another 10 minutes to be absolutely sure he wasn't coming back for something he'd forgotten. Then I called Angela. I'm ready. File everything. Give me 2 hours. I'll have the papers delivered to his office by 10. Make sure Vanessa sees. The process server has explicit instructions to serve him in the most public way possible, while staying professional. Derek will be humiliated, I promise you that. Good. I spent those 2 hours doing final preparations. I photographed every room of the house, documenting that Derek's belongings were gone, that I'd removed only what was clearly his. I downloaded our complete text message history from our phone account, more evidence of his lies and my compliance. I backed up all my documentation to 3 separate locations, cloud storage, an external hard drive, and a USB drive I'd give to Angela. At 9:45, I drove to my office downtown. Not because I had work to do, but because I wanted to be visible, available, provably not hiding when Derek's world collapsed. Amanda saw me come in and looked surprised. I thought you took the day off. Change of plans? Some things I need to handle here. She studied my face, my suit, my too careful composure. Claire, is everything okay? You've been different lately. Distracted. Tense, I'm fine. Or I will be. Soon. That's not reassuring. I know. I'm sorry. I'll explain everything next week, I promise. Right now, I just need to get through today. At exactly 10 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Papers served. Target received them in the conference room during a meeting with 6 colleagues, including female co-worker Vanessa. Very public, very effective. He's asking for you. Should I give him your number? I texted back. He has my number. Whether he chooses to use it is up to him. Then I waited. I'd left my phone on my desk, ringer on maximum, wanting to hear it when Derek called. Because he would call. He'd be confused first, then angry, then desperate. I wanted to hear all of it. 10 minutes passed. 15, 20. At 10:32, my phone rang. Derek's name on the screen, the photo I'd taken of him last summer on our vacation to Maine when I'd still thought we were happy. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Hello? Claire, what the fuck? His voice was sharp with panic and fury. What the fuck did you just do? I filed for divorce. The papers should be self-explanatory. You can't just... This is insane. I was just served divorce papers in front of my entire team. Vanessa was sitting right there. I know. I asked the process server to make sure she saw. Seemed appropriate, given the circumstances. There was a long silence. When Derek spoke again, his voice had changed, gone careful and calculated. Claire, I don't know what you think is going on, but you're making a huge mistake. We can talk about this. Work through whatever's bothering you. You don't need to do something this drastic. Oh, I think I do. See, Derek, when your husband steals $93,000 from your savings account and transfers it to a joint account with his girlfriend, drastic becomes exactly what you need to do. Another silence, longer this time. I could practically hear him trying to figure out how much I knew, what I could prove, whether he could still lie his way out of this. I can explain that, he finally said. Please do. I'm fascinated to hear how you explain transferring my inheritance to an account you share with Vanessa. How did you... He caught himself. Claire, you don't understand. That money was for us, for our future. I was investing it in an account with your girlfriend's name on it. She's not my girlfriend. Vanessa is... She's helping me with a business opportunity. It's complicated. I'm sure it is. Is that also why you've been sleeping with her for 4 months? The silence that followed was absolute. I'd finally said something Derek couldn't immediately lie his way out of. I found the texts, I continued, my voice still calm, still level. All of them. You're very thorough in your communications, Derek. Very detailed about your plans to leave me once you'd secured enough money to start your new life with Vanessa. Very touching, really, reading about how much you love her, how you can't wait to be free. Of me. Claire, I'm not finished. I also know about the restaurant where you meet her. The apartment where you spend your late meetings. The lies you've been telling me for months while planning to abandon me. I know everything, Derek. I have screenshots, bank statements, location data from your phone. Everything a divorce attorney dreams about. You went through my phone? My private accounts? That's a violation of privacy. I laughed then, couldn't help it. You're worried about privacy? You, who stole nearly $100,000 from me. That's your concern right now, that money was in a joint account. No, Derek, it absolutely was not. That money was in my personal savings account. The account I've had since I was 5 years old. The account you had zero legal access to. Which means when you transferred it to yourself, you committed theft. And when you moved it to an account with Vanessa, you committed fraud. I've already spoken to my attorney about pressing charges. You're bluffing. Am I? Call First National Bank and ask them. They've already flagged the transfers as suspicious. I filed a report yesterday. The bank's fraud division is very interested in how you accessed an account that wasn't yours. I heard voices in the background, someone asking Derek if he was okay. He must have stepped away from his meeting, found somewhere private to have this conversation. Claire, please, let's not do this. Let's talk face to face. We can figure this out. There's nothing to figure out. I've filed for divorce. The papers are served. The marriage is over, but we've been together 9 years. That has to mean something. It did mean something. It meant I trusted you. It meant I believed you when you said you loved me. It meant I thought we were partners. But you destroyed all of that when you decided to steal from me and fuck someone else. Don't be crude. Don't be a thief and a cheater, and I won't be crude. Where am I? Supposed to go. This is my home too, and here it was, the moment I'd been waiting for. Actually, Derek, it's not. The house is mine. It was mine before we married. It's been in my name alone for our entire marriage. And 4 days ago, I transferred it to an irrevocable trust. You have zero legal claim to it. You can't do that. We're married. Everything is community property. Not in this state, and not property I owned before the marriage that was never titled jointly. I consulted with an attorney. Everything I did was completely legal. So what? You're kicking me out? Just like that? I already did. I changed the locks yesterday. Your belongings are in a storage unit on the east side. The address and key are in the divorce paperwork. You're welcome. You're unbelievable. You're actually throwing me out on the street? I'm removing a thief from my home. Seems reasonable to me. I'll fight this. I'll contest the divorce. You'll lose, I interrupted, because I have evidence of your theft, your fraud, and your affair. I have text messages where you explicitly discuss leaving me. I have bank records showing you stole from me. I have photos of you with Vanessa at places you told me you weren't. You have nothing but lies that don't work anymore. So by all means, fight me. Spend your money, my money, on attorneys who'll tell you the same thing mine already. Told me, you're fucked. I can't believe you're being this vindictive. Vindictive? Derek, I could have called the police and had you arrested for theft. I could have pressed charges that would leave you with a criminal record. I could have shown up at your office and made a scene in front of everyone. Instead, I filed for divorce quietly, legally, and properly. The fact that you're embarrassed is a bonus, not the goal. Then what is the goal? Getting free of you. That's all I want. You took my money? Fine, keep it. Consider it the price I paid to learn who you really are, but you're not taking my home. You're not taking my peace of mind. And you're absolutely not taking one more day of my life pretending this marriage is salvageable. Vanessa was right about you, Derek said bitterly. She said you were cold, calculating. That you never really loved me. Vanessa doesn't know me at all. But she's about to know you very well. Good luck with that, by the way. Women who steal husbands usually end up with men who can be stolen. Hope she's watching her bank accounts. I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking now, adrenaline finally breaking through the calm I'd maintained for weeks. I'd done it. I'd told him I knew everything. I'd told him about the house, about the locks, about the storage unit. I'd ended the conversation and the marriage simultaneously. My phone immediately started ringing again, Derek calling back. I sent it to voicemail. He called 4 more times in the next 10 minutes. Each one went to voicemail. Then the text started. You're making a huge mistake. We need to talk about this. Rationally, I'll come by the house tonight. Claire, please. Don't do this. I'm sorry about the money. I'll give it back. I'll do anything. Just don't end our marriage like this. I read each one without responding. Let him panic. Let him realize how completely he'd miscalculated, how thoroughly I'd outmaneuvered him. My desk phone rang, Amanda's extension. Can you come to my office? Is everything okay? I just got a very strange call from someone named Derek claiming to be your husband. He says there's a family emergency and he needs to speak with you immediately. I told him you were in a meeting. Was that the right call? Absolutely the right call. Derek and I are getting divorced. There's no emergency. He's just upset that I filed papers this morning. Oh, Claire. Amanda's voice went soft with sympathy. I'm so sorry. I had no idea you were dealing with this. I've been handling it quietly. I didn't want it to affect my work. Do you need time off? Because if you do, I'm okay. Actually, I'm better than I've been in months. Filing those papers was the right decision. If he keeps calling, do I have your permission to block his number from our office system? You absolutely have my permission. After hanging up with Amanda, I checked my personal email. 3 messages from Derek, all variations of his texts, apologizing, pleading, promising to change. I marked them all as read without responding. Then an email from Angela. Derek's attorney just called. Derek wants an emergency hearing to contest the house transfer and freeze your assets. I told them to pound sand, but heads up that this is going to get ugly. He's angry and desperate. Be careful. I wrote back, let him contest whatever he wants. Everything I did was legal and documented. He's the one who committed theft and fraud. Agreed. But angry men do stupid things. Make sure you're safe. Change your routines. Don't be alone anywhere he might show up. I hadn't thought about physical safety. Derek had never been violent, never even raised his voice at me before today. But then again, Derek had never been cornered before, never been exposed, never lost everything in a single morning. I left work early, driving home by a route I normally wouldn't take, checking my rearview mirror compulsively. No one was following me. Derek was probably still at his office, trying to salvage his reputation or consoling himself with Vanessa. The house was quiet when I got home. empty in a way it hadn't been yesterday, now that I knew Derek wouldn't be coming through the door later. This was mine now, completely, legally, irrevocably mine. I made dinner, just for me, which felt strange after 9 years of cooking for two, and ate. In front of the television, watching nothing, my mind replaying the day's events. Around 8 p.m. my doorbell rang. I looked through the window. Derek's car was in the driveway. He rang again, then started knocking. "Claire, I know you're in there. Your car's here. Please, just talk to me face to face," I called Angela. "Derek's at my door." "What do I do?" "Do not let him in. Do not open the door. He has no legal right to enter, and if he forces entry, call the police immediately." "Okay, I'm serious, Claire. Do not engage with him. Do not open that door." I hung up and stood in my living room, listening to Derek knock and ring and eventually shout through the door. "Claire, this is ridiculous. This is my home." "No, it's not," I called back through the closed door. "And if you don't leave, I'm calling the police." "You're really going to do this after everything we've been through? You stole from me, Derek. You cheated on me. You planned to leave me. What exactly am I supposed to overlook in those facts? I made mistakes. People make mistakes. That doesn't mean you destroy everything. I'm not destroying everything. I'm protecting myself. Now leave or I'm calling the police. You're bluffing." I pulled up 911 on my phone and held it where he could see it through the window. Derek looked at the phone, at me, at the house that was no longer his in any meaningful way. "This isn't over," he said. "I'll fight you on every single thing. The house, the money, everything. You won't get away with this. I already did. Now leave my property." He stared at me for a long moment, his face twisted with anger and something that might have been disbelief. Then he turned and walked back to his car, got in and drove away. I stood in the window watching until his taillights disappeared, then called Angela back. He left, but he's angry, really angry. File a police report anyway. Create a record in case he comes back or escalates. Judges take that stuff seriously in divorce proceedings. I called the non-emergency police line and explained the situation. They sent an officer who took a report, told me I'd done the right thing by not opening the door, and suggested I consider a restraining order if Derek continued to show up, uninvited. After the officer left, I locked every door and window, set the alarm system I'd had, installed on Wednesday, and finally let myself feel the weight of what I'd done today. I'd ended my marriage. I'd confronted my husband about his theft and infidelity. I'd kicked him out of my home and made it clear there was no reconciliation coming. I should have felt triumphant, vindicated, strong. Instead, I just felt tired and sad and relieved that it was finally over. 9 years. I'd loved Derek for 9 years, married him for 5, built a life with him that I'd thought was real and permanent. And it had all been a lie, or at least it had become one somewhere along the way. When had he stopped loving me? When had he started planning to leave? When had he looked at me and seen not a partner, but an obstacle to his happiness with someone else? I'd never know, and maybe it didn't matter. What mattered was that I'd seen the truth in time to protect myself, to fight back, to make sure I didn't lose everything to a man who valued me so little he'd steal from me to fund his affair. My grandmother would have been proud. She'd always told me to be smart, to plan ahead, to never let anyone, especially a man, take advantage of me. I'd listened, I'd learned, and when the moment came, I'd executed perfectly. Derek thought he was clever. He thought he'd sneak away with my money and his girlfriend and somehow escape consequences. He'd learned today that clever wasn't enough when your opponent was smarter, more patient, and willing to do what needed to be done. I went to bed that night in a house that was mine alone, in a bed I no use, longer had to share with a liar and a thief, with a future that was uncertain but at least honest. It wasn't the ending I'd wanted for my marriage, but it was the ending Derek had earned, and I'd made sure he paid for every bit of it. Saturday morning arrived with unseasonable warmth, November sun cutting through the windows and making everything in my house look sharp and new. I woke early, disoriented for a moment before remembering Derek was gone. The marriage was over. The battle had begun. My phone showed 17 missed calls and 32 text messages. All from Derek, all escalating from pleading to angry to desperate and back again. I read through them while drinking coffee in my kitchen, without Derek burning toast or humming off key. The texts followed a pattern. First apologetic. I'm sorry, I know I hurt you. Please give me another chance. We can work through this. People do it all the time. I love you. I never stopped loving you. Then demanding, you need to drop this divorce. We can figure out the money stuff. I want to come get my things from the house. You can't just kick me out of my home. Then threatening, my attorney says what you did with the house is illegal. I'm going to fight you on everything. You're going to regret this. And finally, pathetic. I have nowhere to go. Vanessa won't let me stay with her. Do you really hate me this much? Please, Claire. I'm begging you. I deleted them all without responding. Derek wanted engagement, wanted me to fight or forgive or react in some way that would give him leverage. I wouldn't give him that satisfaction. Angela called around 10. How are you holding up? I'm okay. Derek came by last night. I filed a police report. Good. Derek's attorney called me yesterday afternoon. They want to meet next week to discuss settlement terms. What kind of terms? Derek wants the house transfer reversed. He wants half of your retirement accounts. He wants you to drop any claims about the stolen money because he claims it was a joint account, which we both know is nonsense, and he wants the divorce to be labelled irreconcilable differences instead of citing his fault. Absolutely not to all of that. That's what I told them. But Claire, I need you to understand something. Derek's attorney is going to make this difficult. They're going to drag this out, file frivolous motions, challenge every single thing we claim. It's a war of attrition. They're betting you'll get tired and settle rather than fight. Let them bet. I'm not settling, not even on the house, because that's where they're going to focus. The house is valuable, and Derek's attorney is arguing that transferring it to a trust 4 days before filing for divorce shows intent to hide assets. I transferred property. That was mine alone into a trust where I'm the sole beneficiary. That's not hiding assets. That's protecting my own property from someone who'd already stolen from me. I agree, but we'll have to prove the timeline. Prove you discovered the theft before transferring the house. Prove you had legitimate reasons to protect your assets. I have proof of everything. The bank statements, the screenshots of texts between Derek and Vanessa discussing taking my money, the dates of transfers. Everything is documented. Then we should be fine. But preparation is key. I need you to put together a complete timeline. Every event, every discovery, every decision you made and why. We need to show that your actions were reasonable responses to Derek's betrayal, not punitive measures designed to harm him. When do you need it? Monday, if possible. The first hearing is scheduled for Wednesday. I spent the weekend building the timeline Angela requested. It was meticulous work, requiring me to relive every moment of the past 3 weeks, every lie I'd discovered, every document I'd found, every decision I'd made about how to protect myself. October the 15th. Noticed $50 test transfer in my savings account. Transferred out then back within hours. First indication something was wrong. October the 16th. Checked Derek's laptop. Password, our wedding anniversary, which he'd given me years ago for transparency. Found texts between Derek and someone named Alex, discussing once the money's moved. October 17th. Followed Derek during a late meeting. Watched him meet a woman at a restaurant. Took photos. Later identified her as Vanessa from his workplace. October the 20th. Consulted real estate attorney Patricia Hughes about protecting the house. October the 24th. Consulted divorce attorney Angela Freeman about my options and legal protections. October the 28th. Established irrevocable trust for the house. Filed quit-claim deed. November the 1st. Quit-claim deed recorded. House legally transferred to trust. November 3rd. Derek transferred $93,000 from my personal savings account to his checking account. November 5th. Derek transferred $70,000 to joint brokerage account with Vanessa. November the 6th. Changed all locks on house. Moved Derek's belongings to storage unit. November the 7th. Filed for divorce. Served papers to Derek at his workplace. Every step documented, every decision justified, every action defensible as reasonable. Protection against a spouse who'd already stolen from me and was planning to leave. Angela called Sunday evening. Derek's attorney just sent me an email. Derek wants to talk to you directly. Claims there are things he needs to say that he can't say through attorneys. No. That's what I told them. But they're pushing hard. They're suggesting mediation, where you'd both be in the same room with neutral third party. Still no. Derek had months to talk to me honestly. He chose to lie instead. Now he can communicate through attorneys or not at all. I'll let them know. Monday morning, I returned to work. Amanda called me into her office first thing. How are you doing? Really? I'm okay. The divorce is proceeding. My attorney's handling everything. I heard what happened. Derek calling here, showing up. If he contacts you at work again, let me know immediately. I'll have security remove him. Thank you. Claire, I want you to know, I've always admired your work, but watching how you're handling this situation, the strength you're showing, that's impressive. Most people would fall apart. I did fall apart. 3 weeks ago when I found out. But falling apart in private meant I could be strategic in public. Smart woman, grandmother's influence. I spent Monday working on actual projects, trying to maintain normalcy, while my personal life collapsed and rebuilt itself simultaneously. It felt surreal, discussing marketing strategies and campaign ideas while knowing that Wednesday I'd be in court defending my decision to protect my own house from my thieving husband. Tuesday evening, Derek tried calling from different numbers. First a number I didn't recognize, then what I assumed was Vanessa's phone, then a blocked number. I didn't answer any of them. Each call went to voicemail, where Derek left increasingly desperate messages. Claire, please, I just need to explain. I know I fucked up. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But please, just hear me out. The attorney fees are killing me. Can we please just talk and work this out ourselves? I don't understand how you can be this cold. This isn't like you. That last one almost made me laugh. Derek didn't know what I was like when betrayed and stolen from, because I'd never been betrayed and stolen from before. He'd created this version of me, the cold, strategic, unforgiving version. If he didn't like her, he should have thought about that before draining my savings account. Wednesday morning, I dressed in the grey suit again. My armour, my grandmother's gift, my reminder that I was strong enough for this. Angela met me at the courthouse, briefcase full of documents and determination. Ready? As I'll ever be. The hearing was in a small courtroom, just Derek, his attorney, Angela, and the judge. Derek looked terrible, exhausted, rumpled, defeated. He wouldn't look at me directly, kept his eyes fixed on the table in front of him. His attorney, a sharp-faced man named Howard Pierce, presented their case first. Derek was a victim, he argued, of a vindictive spouse who'd hidden assets and locked him out of his home without warning. The house transfer was made in bad faith, designed to deprive Derek of marital property he was entitled to. The changed locks were illegal eviction. Everything I'd done was motivated by spite rather than legitimate concern. Your Honour, Howard concluded, my client made some mistakes in his marriage. He admits that. But Mrs. Whitmore's response has been disproportionate and punitive. We're asking the court to reverse the house transfer, grant my client temporary access to the marital residence and sanction Mrs. Whitmore for her bad faith actions. Angela stood and I watched her transform into exactly what I'd hired her for, a skilled advocate who could make the truth sound. Devastating. Your Honour, let's be clear about what actually happened here. Mr. Whitmore didn't make mistakes. He committed theft. On November the 3rd, he accessed his wife's personal savings account, an account he had no legal right to access, and transferred $93,000 to himself. He then moved most of that money to a joint account with his girlfriend. This wasn't a mistake. This was calculated financial fraud. She pulled out bank statements, highlighted the transfers, showed the timeline. Mrs. Whitmore discovered this theft on October the 15th, when she noticed a test transfer. She had every reason to believe Mr. Whitmore was planning to steal from her, which he then did. Her actions, transferring her own property into a trust where she's the sole beneficiary, were reasonable protections against someone who'd already demonstrated he couldn't be trusted. But the timing, Howard started. The timing proves Mrs. Whitmore's concerns were legitimate, Angela interrupted. She transferred the house on October the 28th. Mr. Whitmore stole her money on November 3rd. If she hadn't protected her assets when she did, she'd have lost everything. The judge, a woman in her 60s with steel grey hair and a no-nonsense expression, looked at Derek. Mr. Whitmore, did you access your wife's personal savings account without her permission? Derek glanced at Howard, who nodded slightly. Yes, Your Honour, but I thought the money was for both of us. I was investing it. In an account with your girlfriend's name on it? Derek flushed. Vanessa was helping me with a business opportunity, Mr. Whitmore. I've reviewed the documentation provided by Mrs. Whitmore's attorney. The text messages between you and Miss Vanessa discussing your plans to leave your wife. The transfers showing you moved money from your wife's account to a joint account with your girlfriend. None of this supports your claim that you were investing marital assets for both of you. Your Honour, if I could… Howard tried. I've heard enough. The judge looked at her notes. Mrs. Whitmore's house was her separate property before the marriage. She transferred it to a trust where she's the sole beneficiary. That's her right. Mr. Whitmore has no legal claim to property his wife owned independently, particularly when he's already demonstrated financial misconduct by accessing her accounts without permission. Motion to reverse the house transfer is denied. Howard stood quickly. Your Honour, at minimum my client should be allowed to retrieve his personal belongings, Mrs. Whitmore moved his belongings to a storage unit and provided the address and key. Mr. May, Whitmore has access to everything that's his. Motion for access to the marital residence is denied. But Your Honour, is there anything else, Counsellor? Howard looked at Derek, who shook his head slightly. No, Your Honour, then we're done here. Next hearing is scheduled for January to address final asset division. Mrs. Whitmore, please provide a complete accounting of marital assets separate from your individual property. Mr. Whitmore, I suggest you return the money you took from your wife's account unless you want to face criminal charges for theft. This court is adjourned. The judge stood and left. Derek immediately turned to me. Claire, please don't. I stood and gathered my things. We have nothing to say to each other that can't be said through attorneys. I need that. Money back. I don't have anywhere to live. I can't afford… You should have thought about that before you stole from me. Now you'll figure it out like anyone else who makes catastrophically bad decisions. I'll give you the money back. All of it. Just please, can we talk about the house? I can't afford rent and hotel stays indefinitely. The house is mine. It was always mine. You living there was a privilege you lost when you decided to betray me. Find somewhere else. With what money? You froze me out. I protected my own assets from someone who was actively stealing from me. That's not freezing you out. That's basic self-preservation. Angela touched my arm. Let's go. You don't need to engage with him. We left Derek standing there with Howard, probably discussing next steps, probably planning their next attack. But they'd lost today. Decisively, publicly, completely. In the parking lot, Angela hugged me. You did great. Staying calm, not engaging with his emotional manipulation. That's exactly what you needed to do. How long until this is over? Months, probably. Derek's going to drag this out as long as possible, hoping you'll settle just to be done with it. But every hearing, every motion, every attempt to reverse what you've done will win. Because you did everything right, and he did everything wrong. What about the money? He stole $93,000. Do I have any chance of getting it back? We'll file a motion for return of separate property. The judge already basically told him to give it back or face criminal charges. Most people comply when faced with that ultimatum, and if he doesn't, then we press charges. Theft is theft, even when the thief is your spouse. I drove home feeling something close to triumph. I'd faced Derek in court and won. The judge had seen through his lies and Howard's arguments. The house was still mine. Derek was still locked out. Everything I'd done had been validated as reasonable and legal. That evening, my mother called. She'd heard about the divorce from my sister, who'd heard from someone who'd heard from someone else. The rumour mill was working efficiently. "Claire, honey, is this true? You and Derek are divorcing?" "Yes, Mum. What happened? You seemed so happy. He cheated on me and stole my savings." $93,000, Mum. The money Grandma saved for me." There was a long silence. "Your grandmother's money? He took your grandmother's money? Every penny. Moved it to an account with his girlfriend. That son of a bitch." My mother rarely cursed, which made the words more impactful. "Please tell me you've done something about this. I filed for divorce." Transferred the house to a trust so he couldn't claim it. Changed the locks. Moved his stuff to storage. Basically made sure he can't take anything else from me. Good. I never completely trusted him, you know? Too smooth. Too confident. Your father always said men who are that sure of themselves usually have something to hide. You never said anything. Would you have listened? You loved him. Sometimes people need to learn their own lessons. Well, I learned. Never again will I trust someone completely. Never again will I let someone have access to what's mine. Never again will I give everything without protecting myself first. Don't become bitter, Claire. Derek's betrayal doesn't mean everyone will betray you. Maybe not everyone. But I'll be more careful about who I let close enough to do damage. We talked for another hour, my mother offering support and advice and the kind of unconditional love that made me wish I'd told her sooner what was happening. But I'd needed to handle this myself, needed to prove I could fight my own battles and win. Friday morning, I received an email from Derek's attorney. "Mrs. Whitmore, my client is prepared to return $85,000 of the funds he transferred from your account. He spent approximately $8,000 on living expenses since you locked him out of the house. He considers this a fair split of the financial impact of the separation. In exchange for return of these funds, my client requests you agree to shared use of the house until the divorce is final. He cannot afford separate housing while also paying legal fees. Please consider this offer carefully. It represents a good faith effort to resolve at least one aspect of your dispute. Howard Pierce." I forwarded the email to Angela with a single line. "What a joke." Her response came quickly. "Agreed. He stole 93k and wants credit for returning 85k? No. Counteroffer, he returns all 93k plus interest and penalties, or we file criminal charges. He can figure out his housing situation on his own." Angela sent the counteroffer. Howard's response took 2 hours. "My client cannot return funds he's already spent. The 85k offer is his final position. If you proceed with criminal charges, he'll be forced to declare bankruptcy, which means you'll get nothing anyway. Take the 85k now and move on." I called Angela. Is he serious? Derek would declare bankruptcy rather than return money he stole from me. He might. But it won't protect him from criminal charges. Bankruptcy discharges civil debts, not criminal restitution orders. If we press charges and he's convicted, a judge can order full restitution regardless of bankruptcy. Then let's press charges. "Claire, I have to ask, is this about the money or the principle?" "Both. But mostly the principle. Derek took something that wasn't his, and he should face real consequences for that." "Okay, I'll prepare the criminal complaint. But understand that once we file, there's no going back. Derek will have a criminal record if he's convicted. That affects employment, housing, everything. Are you comfortable with that?" He should have thought about those consequences before. He stole from me. The criminal complaint was filed Monday. Derek was arrested on Tuesday, not dramatically, just a quiet notice to appear that he had to respond to or face a warrant. But it was real, official. My husband wasn't just someone I was divorcing. He was someone I'd reported to law enforcement for theft. The news spread quickly through Derek's workplace, through our shared social circle, through the community where we'd lived for 5 years. People took sides, some supporting me, some thinking I'd gone too far, some saying both of us were wrong in different ways. I stopped caring what people thought. The only opinions that mattered were the judges, my attorneys, and my own. By December, a pattern had emerged. Derek would file a motion requesting something: access to the house, division of assets, dismissal of criminal charges. Angela would oppose. We'd have a hearing. The judge would rule in my favor. Derek would regroup and file another motion. Each victory felt smaller than the last. Not because they weren't important, but because I was tired. Tired of fighting, tired of reliving the betrayal, tired of being defined by my failed marriage and my strategic response to it. The divorce was supposed to be my ending, my chance to move on. Instead, it had become my present, consuming time and energy and emotional bandwidth I didn't have to spare. In mid-December, Angela called with unexpected news. Derek's attorney wants to settle. They're offering to return the full $93,000, waive all claims to the house, and agree to a quick divorce in exchange for you dropping the criminal charges. Why would I do that? Because criminal prosecution takes time and money. Because even if Derek's convicted, there's no guarantee you'll collect restitution. Because settling now means you can actually move on instead of being trapped in legal battles for the next year. What do you recommend? Personally, I'd take the deal. You get your money back, you keep your house, you get your divorce. Derek faces no criminal charges but has to live with knowing he almost went to jail for theft. Everyone moves on. I thought about it for 2 days. Thought about my grandmother who'd started that savings account. Thought about the principle of letting thieves face consequences. Thought about the exhaustion I felt every time I had to meet with Angela or attend a hearing or explain to someone else why I was divorcing my husband. On Thursday, I called Angela. Accept the deal. But I want the money transferred back within 48 hours, and I want the divorce finalized within 30 days. Non-negotiable. Done. I'll send the settlement agreement today. The money appeared in my account on Saturday morning. All $93,000, exactly as it had been before Derek took it. I stared at the balance for a long time, thinking about how much effort and pain had gone into getting back what should never have been taken in the first place. The divorce was finalized on January the 15th. No ceremony, no drama. Just paperwork signed and filed and processed. Derek and I didn't even have to be in the same room. We each signed separately, our attorneys filed the documents, and the judge approved the dissolution. I received the final decree in the mail on January the 20th. Claire Whitmore was now Claire Morrison again, my maiden name, the name I'd been born with, the name I'd given up when I thought Derek and I were partners. I was single, financially secure, and living in a house that was legally and irrevocably mine. I'd won, completely, decisively, thoroughly, so why did it feel so hollow? February arrived with the kind of cold that made you question why anyone chose to live this far north. I spent the first week of the month organizing my house, not just cleaning, but reorganizing. Moving furniture Derek had chosen to different rooms, repainting walls that had been his preferred colors, reclaiming space that had felt like ours and making it definitively mine. My savings account showed the full $93,000 again, untouched and earning interest. The house was paid off. I'd inherited it from my grandmother, so there'd never been a mortgage. My job was stable and paid well. I had friends, family, a future stretching ahead of me without Derek's lies and betrayal. I should have been happy, or at least relieved. Instead, I felt unmoored, like I'd been so focused on fighting and winning that I'd forgotten to plan for what came after victory. My therapist, yes, I'd started seeing someone in November when the stress of the divorce had started giving me insomnia, called it post-battle exhaustion. You spent months in survival mode, doctor, Martinez explained during a session, gathering evidence, planning strategy, executing your response to Derek's betrayal. Your brain was in constant high alert. Now that the threat is over, you're crashing. It's normal. I don't feel normal. I feel empty. Tell me about empty. Like I achieved everything I was working toward. I got my money back. I kept my house. I divorced Derek. But now what? I defined myself by that goal for so long that I don't know who I am without it. Who were you before Derek? Before the marriage? I thought about that. Ambitious, independent, focused on my career. I had plans, traveling, maybe starting my own consulting business, buying investment properties. But then Derek came along, and all those plans got absorbed into our plans, our future, our goals. And now I can do whatever I want. And I have no idea what that is. Dr. Martinez smiled. That's not emptiness, Claire. That's possibility. You're grieving the future you thought you'd have, yes. But you're also free to build a different future. One that's entirely yours. She was right, intellectually. But emotionally, I still felt lost. Work became my anchor. I threw myself into projects with an intensity that worried Amanda. You're working too much, she told me in March. You're here before everyone else and leaving after everyone else. That's not sustainable. I'm fine, just focused. You're avoiding. There's a difference. Avoiding what? Going home to an empty house. Sitting with your feelings about the divorce. Actually processing what happened instead of just powering through it. She wasn't wrong. The house that I'd fought so hard to keep had become a reminder of everything I'd lost. Not the marriage. I didn't miss Derek, didn't regret leaving him. But I missed the life I'd thought I was building, the partnership I'd believed in, the future I'd imagined. In April, I started dating. Not seriously, just coffee with a colleague who'd been asking for months, dinner with a friend of a friend, a few forgettable encounters that made me realize I wasn't ready for anything meaningful. I'd trusted Derek completely, and he'd betrayed that trust so thoroughly that I couldn't. Imagine being vulnerable with someone else. You're guarded, one date told me bluntly. Like you're conducting an interview instead of having a conversation. It's exhausting. He was right. I was guarded. I was interviewing potential partners like I was hiring an employee, looking for red flags and inconsistencies, trusting nothing anyone said until I could verify it, independently. Dr. Martinez called it a protective mechanism. I called it learning from experience, not everyone is Derek, she reminded me during a session. Most people won't betray you the way he did, but some will. And I have no way of knowing which ones until it's too late. That's the risk of being human, Claire. We trust people knowing they might hurt us. The alternative is isolation. Maybe isolation is safer. Safer, yes, but lonelier. And ultimately, not really living. I stopped dating after that. It felt too effortful, too fraught with potential for disaster. Better to focus on myself, my career, my independence. In May, I received an unexpected email from Vanessa. Subject line, I owe you an apology. I almost deleted it without reading. But curiosity won out. Claire, I know you have no reason to read this, let alone believe anything I say. But I need to apologize. Not because I deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve to hear it. I knew Derek was married, he told me early on. But he said you two were basically already over, that you'd grown apart, that he was staying for financial reasons, but planning to leave. I believed him because I wanted to, because it was easier than admitting I was helping someone cheat. When the divorce happened, when you found out about us, Derek told me you were being vindictive, that you'd stolen from him, locked him out unfairly, were making his life hell out of spite. I believed that too, because again, it was easier. But then Derek moved in with me, and I saw who he really was. The lying, the manipulation, the way he twisted every situation to make himself the victim. Within 2 months, he was treating me the way he'd apparently treated you, taking my money, lying about where he was, making me feel crazy for questioning him. I kicked him out last week, and I started looking into what actually happened with your marriage. I found the court documents, read the judge's findings. You didn't steal from him. He stole from you. Everything he told me was a lie. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I believed him without questioning. I'm sorry I participated in destroying your marriage. I'm sorry I didn't see what he was until it was too late. You don't owe me forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that you were right about everything, and I was an idiot. Vanessa Pipe. I read the email 3 times. Then I wrote back, Vanessa, thank you for the apology. I appreciate the courage it took to send it. You're right that I don't owe you forgiveness, but I also don't carry anger toward you. You were lied to, just like I was. The difference is I was married to him for 9 years before figuring out who he really was. You figured it out faster than I did. I hope you're doing okay. And I hope you've learnt the same lesson I did when someone tells you they're treating their spouse badly but will treat you differently. Believe the first part and run. Claire, she wrote back immediately, lesson learned. I'm in therapy now, trying to figure out why I was attracted to someone like Derek in the first place. My therapist says I have a pattern of dating men who need saving. Derek didn't need saving. He needed accountability, which you gave him. I read about the criminal charges. Did he actually get convicted? No. We settled. He returned the money and I dropped the charges. But he has the arrest record, which has apparently made his life difficult. Good. He earned difficult. I didn't respond after that. What else was there to say? Vanessa and I weren't going to be friends. But at least we'd achieved a kind of closure, an acknowledgement that we'd both been victims of Derek's lies in different ways. In June, my mother suggested I sell the house. Too many memories, she said during a visit. Too much baggage. Start fresh somewhere new. This was Grandma's house. I can't just sell it. Grandma would want you to be happy. If this house is preventing that, she'd tell you to let it go. It's not the house. It's me. I need to figure out how to move forward, and I can't do that by running away. Sometimes running away is the same thing as moving forward. There's no shame in acknowledging that a place or a thing carries too much weight. Thought about that for days. The house was beautiful, paid off, in a great neighborhood. But my mother was right. Every room held memories of Derek, of the marriage I'd thought was real, of the life I'd been building that turned out to be constructed on lies. Maybe keeping the house was just another way of holding on to something that was already gone. In July, I listed the house for sale. It sold in 3 days, multiple offers, buyers competing, exactly what my real estate agent had predicted. I accepted an offer $40,000 above asking price from a young couple expecting their first child. They reminded me of Derek and me 10 years ago, full of hope and plans, believing their love would be enough. I hoped they were right. I hoped their marriage would be what mine wasn't. Honest, faithful, equal. I hoped they'd be happy in my grandmother's house in ways I hadn't been able to achieve. The closing was in August. I signed papers transferring ownership, collected a check, and walked away from the house I'd fought so hard to keep. It felt surreal. I'd spent months protecting that property from Derek, making it mine, irrevocably, and now I was voluntarily giving it to strangers. But it was the right decision. The house had been about principle, about not letting Derek take what was mine. Once I'd achieved that goal, the house itself stopped mattering. It was just a building, a structure, a physical space that held memories I needed to move past. I bought a condo downtown, 2 bedrooms, modern, no history. Just clean lines and open space and potential for whatever came next. I furnished it myself, choosing everything carefully, making sure nothing reminded me of Derek or our marriage or the life I'd left behind. By September, a year after I'd noticed that first suspicious transfer, I felt like I was finally emerging from the fog of betrayal and divorce and strategic warfare. I was single, financially secure, living in a space that was entirely mine, working a job I was good at. I'd won the battle with Derek completely. I'd protected my assets, exposed his lies, made sure he faced consequences for his theft and infidelity. I'd done everything I'd set out to do, but I still felt hollow sometimes. Like winning wasn't enough, like justice wasn't the same as healing. Dr. Martinez said that was normal. Revenge is satisfying in the moment, but empty long-term. What you're feeling now is the realization that destroying Derek's life didn't fix yours. It protected you, yes, but protection isn't the same as happiness. So what do? You rebuild. Not around someone else, not in opposition to Derek, just for yourself. Figure out what makes you happy, what gives you purpose, what you want your life to look like 5 years from now. I started small. I joined a book club, took a painting class, volunteered at a women's shelter, helping other people navigate divorces and financial abuse and the process of starting over. I travelled, quick trips to places I'd always wanted to see but Derek hadn't been interested in. I stopped checking Derek's social media. Stopped wondering what he was doing, where he was living, whether he'd learned anything from the destruction of our marriage. He was my past. I needed to focus on my present and future. In October, exactly a year after discovering Derek's first suspicious transfer, I received an unexpected piece of mail. A letter, handwritten, postmarked from a city 3 hours away. I opened it carefully. "Claire, I know you don't want to hear from me. I know I have no right to contact you. But I need to say some things, and this is my only way of saying them. You were right about everything. I stole from you. I cheated on you. I lied to you constantly. I took your trust and your love and your grandmother's savings and threw them away for something that looked exciting but was ultimately worthless. Vanessa left me. My job fired me after the arrest record made clients uncomfortable. I'm working retail now, making barely enough to cover rent and legal fees. I lost everything. Our home, our friends, my career, my reputation. Everything you warned me would happen, happened. I'm not writing to ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve forgiveness. I'm writing to tell you that you were the best thing that ever happened to me. And I was too stupid and selfish to see it until after I destroyed everything. I hope you're happy. I hope you've moved on. I hope you found someone who treats you the way I should have. You deserved so much better than what I gave you. I'm sorry for all of it. For every lie, every betrayal, every moment I made you doubt yourself. You were never the problem. I was. Derek." I read the letter twice. Then I folded it carefully and put it in a drawer with all the other divorce paperwork, evidence of a chapter that was finished, archived but not forgotten. I felt nothing reading his apology. No satisfaction, no anger, no desire to respond or engage. Just a kind of neutral acknowledgement that Derek had finally admitted what I'd known for over a year. He'd been the problem, not me. His apology didn't change anything. It didn't undo the betrayal or restore what he'd taken. It was just words on paper, too late to matter, sent by someone who'd learned. Consequences didn't care about excuses. I didn't write back. Derek didn't need my forgiveness to move on with his life, and I didn't need to give it. We were done, legally, emotionally, in every way that mattered. The divorce had been about protecting myself. The aftermath was about building something new. Derek was neither part of the protection nor the building. He was just history, relevant only as a lesson about what to avoid in the future. That night, I took the letter and all the divorce documents, bank statements, legal filings, the timeline I'd built for Angela, everything that had consumed months of my life, and locked them in a box in the back of my closet. Not destroyed, not forgotten, but archived. Accessible if needed, but not part of my daily life anymore. Then I opened my laptop and started planning a trip to Ireland, somewhere I'd always wanted to go but had never prioritized. I'd go in spring, stay for 2 weeks, see castles and countryside and everything that had nothing to do with Derek or our failed marriage or the year I'd spent fighting and winning and healing. I was 33 years old, single, independent, financially secure, free to make choices based on what I wanted rather than what someone else needed. I'd lost 9 years to a marriage that ended in betrayal. But I'd gained something too, proof that I was strong enough to fight back, smart enough to win, resilient enough to rebuild. Derek had tried to destroy me financially and emotionally. Instead, he'd accidentally taught me exactly how powerful I could be when properly motivated. That was his final gift to me, unintentional though it was. And unlike everything else he'd given me during our marriage, this gift I'd keep forever. Not the anger or the betrayal, but the knowledge that I could survive anything, fight anyone, and come out stronger on the other side. That was worth more than my grandmother's savings, or the house, or anything material Derek had taken or tried to take. I'd won, not just the divorce, but myself, my independence, my confidence, my future. And that victory was the only one that really mattered. Spring arrived with the kind of optimism that made you believe anything was possible. I boarded a plane to Dublin in late April, 2 weeks of vacation approved and a backpack, full of everything I'd need for a solo trip through Ireland. No itinerary, no schedule, just a rough plan to see what caught my interest and stay where I felt comfortable. The trip was transformative in ways I hadn't expected. Not because Ireland was magical, though it was beautiful, but because travelling alone forced me to trust myself in ways I hadn't since before Derek. I made decisions about where to go and what to see without consulting anyone. I talked to strangers in pubs and hostels, sharing pieces of my story without the weight of needing them to take sides or validate my choices. "You're travelling alone?" an older woman asked me in Galway, her accent thick with local colour. "That's brave, is it? I just wanted to see Ireland. Most women wouldn't. Most women would wait for someone to go with them. You're brave whether you know it or not." Maybe she was right. Maybe leaving had been brave. Not just leaving Derek, but leaving the aftermath. The anger, the emptiness, the constant loop of reliving betrayal and justice and victory. Maybe the bravest thing I'd done wasn't fighting back, but letting go and moving forward. I came home in early May feeling lighter. The condo welcomed me back. Clean lines, open space, nothing that reminded me of Derek or our marriage. Just my space, my choices, my life. Work had continued smoothly in my absence. Amanda told me I looked better. "Relaxed," she said. "Like you finally stopped running from something." I think I did. Or maybe I ran towards something instead. Either way, it looks good on you. That summer, I started making more deliberate choices about my life. I took a course in financial planning, learning to manage my own investments instead of relying on professionals. I started working out regularly, not to look any particular way, but because I liked feeling strong. I reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with during my marriage, rebuilding social connections Derek had slowly eroded without me noticing. I even went on a few dates that didn't feel like job interviews. Nothing serious, nothing that progressed beyond a few dinners and interesting conversations. But it felt good to be open to possibilities without being desperate for outcomes. In August, I got a promotion at work, senior consultant, a title I'd been working toward for years, but had seemed permanently out of reach during the chaos of divorce. Amanda told me I'd earned it through consistently excellent work and demonstrated leadership. "You could have fallen apart last year," she said. "A lot of people would have. Instead, you handled your personal crisis with the same strategic thinking you bring to client work." That's impressive. I had good teachers. My grandmother always said problems are just puzzles that need solving. She raised you well, she did. I wish she'd lived long enough to see me figure some things out. In September, Zitai volunteered to speak at a women's shelter about financial protection during divorce. I shared my story, not all of it, not the most painful parts, but enough to illustrate how I'd protected myself when I discovered Derek's betrayal. How I documented everything, consulted attorneys early, made strategic moves before Derek could drain assets or hide money. The women in the shelter listened intently. Afterward, several approached me with questions, asking for specifics about how I'd established the trust for my house, what evidence I'd gathered, how I'd built a timeline. For my attorney, "You're giving them hope," the shelter director told me. "Most of them feel powerless." "You're showing them they're not. I felt powerless too at first. Then I realized I had more control than I thought. I just needed to use it. Will you come back? Maybe monthly? We have women cycle through who could benefit from your experience." I agreed. It felt good, using what I'd learned to help others. Turning my painful experience into something useful, something that might prevent other women from suffering the way I had. By October, 2 years after discovering Derek's first suspicious transfer, I felt like I'd finally moved past the divorce. Not forgotten it, I'd never forget, but moved past it to where it was just history, not my present or future. I saw Derek once that fall, completely by accident. I was having coffee with a friend when he walked into the cafe. We made eye contact for a brief second. He looked older, tired, nothing like the confident man I'd married. He nodded slightly, acknowledgement, maybe apology, maybe nothing, and left without ordering. "Was that him?" my friend asked. "That was him. You okay? I'm fine." He's just someone I used to know. And that was true. Derek had become someone I used to know, someone who'd been important once but wasn't anymore. The anger had faded. The need for continued justice had faded. What remained was just neutral acknowledgement that we'd been married, it had ended badly, and we'd both moved on. In December, 3 years after I'd changed the locks on my house and moved Derek's belongings to storage, I accepted an invitation to my company's holiday party. I almost didn't go. I'd skipped the previous 2 years, too raw from divorce to pretend to be festive. But this year felt different. This year, I actually wanted to celebrate. I went alone, dressed in dark green, feeling confident and comfortable. I talked to colleagues, met their families, laughed at terrible jokes, and toasted the year's successes. And I met someone. Not dramatically, not with instant chemistry or love at first sight. Just a conversation with someone interesting at the bar, a friend of a colleague, a consultant from a different firm, someone who'd recently moved to the city. His name was Alex. He was smart, funny, asked good questions, and actually listened to answers. "You're intense," he observed after we'd been talking for an hour. "Like you're constantly analysing everything. Is that bad?" "No, just interesting. Like you've been through something that made you careful." "I have. Divorce. Bad one." "How bad?" "The kind where your spouse steals your savings and you have to protect your assets before filing." "Ouch. I'm sorry. Don't be. I learned a lot about protecting myself, about trusting my instincts, about being strategic instead of just reactive." Strategic divorce. That's impressive. Strategic survival. The divorce was just the outcome. We exchanged numbers. He texted the next day asking if I wanted to get coffee. I said yes, with none of the anxiety I'd felt the previous year when dating had felt like conducting interviews. Coffee led to dinner. Dinner led to more dinners. I was careful, yes. Old habits from the Derek years died hard. But Alex didn't trigger the alarm bells Derek had ignored. He was consistent, honest about his life and history, didn't try to move too fast or push for intimacy before we were ready. "You're cautious," he told me after we'd been seeing each other for a month. "I get it. Someone hurt you badly, but I'm not him. I'm not going to steal from you or lie to you or betray your trust. How do I?" "Know that you don't. Not with certainty. That's the risk of being human. But I can promise I'll be honest, even when it's hard. And I can promise that if I ever feel like this isn't working, I'll tell you instead of sneaking around. That's more than most people promise. Then most people need to set their standards higher." I let myself fall slowly and carefully, watching for warning, signs that never came. Alex was who he presented himself as, divorced himself with no drama or hidden baggage. A consultant like me, understanding the demands of the work. Someone who'd been through his own betrayal and learned to be careful without being closed. We weren't perfect. We argued sometimes, disagreed on things that mattered, had moments where past trauma made present trust difficult. But we talked through it all, neither of us willing to let assumptions and silence poison something good the way lies had poisoned my marriage to Derek. In March, 4 years after my divorce was finalised, Alex and I moved in together. Not in my condo, that was mine, my space, my sanctuary. And not in his apartment, he needed his own space too. We bought a house together, a new place with no history for either of us. Just possibility and shared future and careful trust built one honest day at a time. "Are you sure about this?" my mother asked when I told her. "After Derek, after everything that happened, you're moving in with someone?" "I'm sure. Not blindly, not without protecting myself. We have a cohabitation agreement, separate accounts, clear ownership of everything we each bring to the relationship. But yes, I'm sure, Alex isn't Derek. And I'm not the same woman who married Derek. No, you're not. You're stronger now. Smarter. I'm proud of you, sweetheart." In June, I got an unexpected call. Vanessa, the woman Derek had left me for, the woman who'd apologized years ago for her role in destroying my marriage. "I hope it's okay that I'm calling. I got your number from the court records. Sorry, I know that's weird. It's fine. What's going on? I'm getting married. To someone I met in therapy, actually. And I wanted to tell you because you were right. About everything. About Derek, about being careful, about protecting yourself. I almost made the same mistakes with someone else. But I remembered what you said about watching patterns instead of believing promises. It saved me from another disaster. I'm glad. And congratulations on your engagement. Thank you. I just wanted you to know that what you went through, the way you handled it, it taught me something important. You didn't just survive Derek. You showed me how to survive too. After we hung up, I thought about that. I'd survived Derek. But more than that, I'd turned survival into a lesson, shared my strategy with others, helped people protect themselves the way I'd protected myself. That was the real victory. Not the divorce, not keeping my house or getting my money back, but using what I'd learned to help others, to prevent them from suffering the way I had. Dr. Martinez had been right. Revenge was empty. Justice was satisfying but temporary. But helping others, teaching them to be strategic, to protect themselves, to trust carefully but completely when they found someone trustworthy, that gave meaning to everything I'd been through. In September, 5 years after discovering Derek's first suspicious transfer, I spoke at a national conference about financial protection during divorce. The audience was full of attorneys, financial advisors, and advocates for domestic violence survivors. I told my story, all of it this time, holding nothing back. The theft, the betrayal, the strategic response, the aftermath. I transferred the house not out of revenge, I concluded, but out of necessity. My husband had already stolen from me. I had every reason to believe he'd steal again. Protecting what was mine wasn't vindictive, it was survival. And every person in an abusive or deceptive relationship deserves the same opportunity to survive. The applause was overwhelming. Afterward, dozens of people approached me, attorneys who wanted permission to share my story with clients, advocates who wanted me to speak at their organizations, women who wanted to tell me about their own strategic escapes from bad marriages. I'd become accidentally famous in a very small, very important world. The woman who'd outsmarted her cheating husband. The wife who'd transferred the house before he could take it. The survivor who had turned betrayal into battle plan and won completely. It wasn't the identity I'd imagined for myself, but it was one I'd earned and one that mattered to people who needed hope that fighting back was possible. That night, Alex and I had dinner at home, something we did most nights, a small routine. That felt comfortable and safe. Over pasta and wine, I told him about the conference, about the people who'd approached, me about how strange it felt to be known for my divorce. "Are you okay with that?" he asked. "Being defined by how you left Derek instead of who you are now?" "I'm not defined by it. I'm defined by who I became because of it." There's a difference. That's a very clear answer. Strategic and precise. Is that bad? No, it's one of the things I love about you. You think clearly even when everything's chaos. You plan instead of panicking. You're the most competent person I've ever met. Love. You used the word love. I did. Is that okay? I thought about it. Thought about Derek, who'd said he loved me while stealing from me. Thought about the years I'd spent believing love meant trust without verification. Thought about how I'd changed, how I'd learned to trust carefully but completely when someone earned it. "It's okay," I said. "It's better than okay. I love you too. But if you ever steal my money, I will absolutely destroy you." Alex laughed. Fair warning, though I should tell you, I'm terrible at crime. I'd be caught immediately. That's what Derek thought too. But Derek didn't know you were watching. I know you're always watching. It's one of your most terrifying and attractive qualities. He was right. I was always watching. Not with suspicion or paranoia, but with the careful attention of someone who'd learned that people reveal who they are through actions, not words. Alex's actions, consistent, honest, respectful, had earned my trust over time. Not blind trust, but informed trust. The kind that survived scrutiny because it was genuine. That was what Derek had never understood. That love without trust was just performance, and trust without verification was just naivete. Real relationships required both, genuine feeling and evidence that the feeling was reciprocated through behavior. In December, Alex proposed. Not dramatically, he wasn't that kind of person, and I wasn't that kind of woman. Just a quiet moment at home, a simple question, a ring that was elegant without being ostentatious. "I want to spend my life with you," he said. "Not because you complete me or because I need you, but because I genuinely like who I am when I'm with you. Because we make each other better. Because I trust you completely, and I want to build something together that's real and honest and strong. That's the best proposal I've ever heard. And yes, I want that too." We married in spring, 6 years after my divorce from Derek was finalized. Small ceremony, just family and close friends, nothing that resembled my first wedding. No performance, no pretense, no trying to prove anything to anyone. Just two people making promises they intended to keep, witnessed by people who actually cared about them. I wore a simple dress, not white. White felt too symbolic, too weighted with expectations of purity and new beginnings. I chose blue, my grandmother's favorite color, a reminder that I'd survived because she'd taught me to be smart and strategic and never let anyone take advantage of me. My mother cried during the ceremony. "I'm so happy for you," she said afterward. "You found someone who deserves you, who sees you clearly and loves what he sees." I found someone honest. That's all I really needed. That's all any of us need. That summer, 7 years after Mo, I'd noticed Derek's first suspicious transfer. I received one final piece of closure. A letter from Derek, forwarded through my attorney to maintain the distance we'd agreed on years ago. "Claire, I saw the announcement about your wedding in the paper. Congratulations. I mean that sincerely. I'm doing okay now, in case you were wondering. I found work in a different field, teaching, actually, high school business classes. It's not what I thought I'd be doing at 40, but it's honest work, and I'm good at it. I'm in therapy still, trying to understand why I made the choices I made. My therapist says I was afraid of intimacy, afraid of being known completely, so I created distance through deception. You knew me better than anyone, and that terrified me, so I destroyed what we had before. You could see all my flaws and leave. Ironic, right? I left you because I was afraid you'd leave me. Self-fulfilling prophecy. Anyway, I wanted to tell you something I should have said years ago. Thank you. Not for the divorce or the consequences, I earned those. But for being honest about what I did and what it cost. For showing me that actions have consequences. For refusing to let me hide from what I'd done. You saved me, in a way. By not letting me get away with it. By forcing me to face who I'd become. I hope you're happy. I hope Alex treats you the way I should have. I hope you never have to be strategic or protective again, because he's actually worthy of your trust. Derek! I read the letter twice. Then I filed it with all the other divorce documents in the box in the back of my closet. Archived history, relevant but not present. Derek's therapy seemed to be working. He'd achieved insight, taken responsibility, found work that suited him better than corporate consulting ever had. He'd grown in ways he couldn't have grown without the consequences I'd insisted he face. I didn't forgive him. Forgiveness wasn't necessary. We'd both moved on to better lives separately. But I understood him better now, understood that his betrayal hadn't been about me at all. It had been about his own fears and inadequacies and inability to handle the intimacy he'd claimed to want. That didn't excuse what he'd done, but it explained it. And explanation brought its own kind of closure. That evening, I showed Alex the letter. He read it carefully, then looked at me. "How do you feel about this?" Neutral. Derek grew up. Good for him. But it doesn't change anything. He's still my past. You're my present and future. Good answer. Though I should tell you, if I ever write you an apology letter like this, you have permission to kick me out immediately. I'd rather avoid the whole dramatic betrayal followed by years of therapy narrative. Deal. Just don't steal my money or cheat on me and we'll be fine. That's a pretty low bar. For marital success. You'd be surprised how many people can't clear it. Alex kissed me. Then I guess I'll have to exceed expectations by being honest, faithful, and not touching your bank accounts without permission. See? That's all I ever wanted. Derek made it so complicated. You make it simple. Maybe that's the secret. Stop making love complicated. Just be honest and show up and don't steal from your spouse. Revolutionary, we laughed. And I thought about how far I'd come from the woman who'd opened that bank statement 7 years ago and seen zero where $93,000 should have been. That woman had been shocked, betrayed, determined to fight. This woman, the one I'd become, was happy, secure, married to someone who understood that trust was earned through consistency, not demanded through vows. I'd transferred a house to protect myself from a thief. In doing so, I'd learned I was strong enough to fight anyone, smart enough to win, resilient enough to rebuild. Derek had tried to take everything. Instead, he'd accidentally given me the greatest gift, proof that I could survive anything and come out stronger on the other side. That was worth more than the house, more than the money, more than any material thing he'd tried to steal. I'd won, not just the legal battles or the financial protections. I'd won myself back, my confidence, my independence, my absolute certainty that I'd never, again, let anyone make me small or afraid or powerless. And that victory, that reclamation of self, was the one that would last forever. The rest was just details.